It's like a half calf, decaf, triple soy, sugar-free, fat-free, affogato latte. Just kidding, I'm a power lifter. So this is like whole milk and like 4 pumps of pumpkin. Just 4 whole pumpkins in this bad boy. Hello everyone and welcome back to the couch. My name is Taylor and today we will be talking about my first meet, just looking back, just some things I would have done differently, things that I think I did right, and just a couple general tips for anyone kind of going into their first or second or third or fourth meet. So I was thinking about what I wanted to do for this week's video, and I was still kind of on the track of meet day, and I was thinking about how a couple people told me it was nice to just watch videos from the point of view of a female powerlifter, just kind of showing their training and talking about their goals and the processes that they go through. So I was thinking, why not kind of walk through my very first meet and kind of look at it and talk about it. There's a lot of things I would have done differently, but a lot of things I think I did right, or things that I feel I executed very well. So I thought that that would be a very cool thing to go over. So if you've been following me on Instagram, early 2019, late 2018, you know that my first meet went pretty well. I went 7 for 9. I touched weights that I had never touched before, which I don't really recommend for your first meet, but we'll talk about that later. And I ended up getting best female lifter, and I got to pee in a cup. So what more could you ask for, really? So we'll kind of talk about things leading up to the meet, kind of 3 weeks out and then 1 week out, and then we'll talk about the day of. And again, I will try to put timestamps in the description. So if you're just kind of curious about the actual meet day, it should be in there. So I don't think I really talked about this on social media, but I actually had a couple obstacles leading up into the meet, a couple of which I did to myself. When I competed mid-December of 2018, I do not recommend competing around the holidays unless you have family very nearby. I, on the other hand, was living in Charlotte, North Carolina. I'm originally from Cleveland, Ohio, so I had to travel for Thanksgiving about 3 weeks out. And for those of you who don't quite know the ins and outs of a powerlifting peak, why people can lift so much more usually in a meet than they can in the gym, it's because during a peak you're ramping up and you're accumulating a lot of fatigue, increasing your fitness, and then the goal of the taper is to strip away that fatigue while leaving the fitness and the technical preparedness. So if you've ever wondered why, you know, a few days before the meet you're in the gym, you know, doing doubles on squats with like 60 or 65%, thinking it's a waste of time. The point of that is to keep you technically proficient, efficient, both. So I'm, you know, 3 weeks out, supposed to be accumulating all this fatigue, and I basically went home and had about a 1 week break from training. I think it was about 5 days. But what I did was I just made sure that I got a session in the day before I left. So normally when you would be packing and preparing, I was lifting, making sure I got my work in. And then I was in the gym the day after I got back. And I want to say that I just pretty much combined any days I missed in that day I came back and just kind of tried to really just make up for lost time. It ended up working out, I will say. But I try not to let that bother me because I was like, okay, it's my first meet. Like, the wonderful thing about your first meet is anything you put on the platform is going to be a meet PR. So I was like, you know, I made a New Year's resolution. I was going to compete this year. This is the last possible meet. I already, you know, paid. It's gonna be fun, it's gonna be fine. So I just kind of, I did not let that bother me at all whatsoever. So that was all around like 3 weeks out. 1 week out, This is all like a very long story, so again, I feel like this is kind of where the timestamps will come into play if you just kind of want to skip all this nonsense, because it didn't really affect my performance on the platform, but it was really just like, please learn from my mistakes type thing is why I'm telling the story. But just so you know, don't like need to listen to it. So about this time, mid-December, my tires were extremely worn out, so I was very hyper aware of needing to get them changed. And of course, since I knew I would be driving a long-ish distance for this meet, I was like, okay, I need to get new tires, but it'll be fine, it'll be quick. Well, my car, after spending about 6 years in Ohio, nothing is ever easy when I take my car anywhere. There's always a lot of rust, there's always a lot of problems. I like to think I got all those problems sorted out before I left Charlotte, and I haven't had a lot of issues since I moved here. So we go in, of course it's a discount tire because I knew people had gotten really good deals on their tires, and there was something wrong. I don't remember what it was so long ago. But of course they weren't equipped to like deal with it. So I had to take it to my normal people. This was a Wednesday. I competed on Saturday. So I went in, took way longer than expected for them to see my car, all for them to be like, yeah, we can't do anything with it. So I had them put all the wheels back on, drove over to Olympus 365. Shout out Olympus if you're ever in Charlotte. That is an excellent facility to go to. I don't know if they're accepting guests right now, but do that. We left and Robbie was like, we could just go to Fitness Connection. We don't have to go here. You just have doubles and triples with, 50 to 65% on everything. You don't really need to go to this like really nice powerlifting gym. But I was like, I want to lift on a squat bar. I've never lifted on a squat bar. I want to see what it feels like. Of course, we get there and the squat bar is being used, so I had to wait. So we get there, do the thing, we leave. It's like 10 or 11. Get back the next day. I drop my car off at my usual place. Of course, Robbie's like, you really don't have to get this done now. I'm sure your car will be fine. And I'm over here like just imagining I'm driving up to King, North Carolina, and my car just falls apart. So I'm like, no, it'll be fine. It'll be quick. So we took it up to my regular place. I think I just kept packing and getting ready. And then they call and I find out there's another issue. This I think I remember. I had to get my entire wheel hub replaced because Nissan, they put the entire hub together. You can't, so if one part's bad, gone bad, broken, whatever, they can't just like replace the one part. They have to replace the whole thing. So it was that on top of the issue they already had to fix, and they're like, we can't do anything unless we do this. And I was like, okay, fine. So that meant leaving her overnight because we had to wait on parts, which is always fun. So Friday morning, I think we got coffee, and then we go pick my car up from this place. We Ubered to this place, grab everything that I needed, all my gym equipment, clothes, everything like that. Go to the tire place, get my frickin' tires put on, and then we left from the tire place to my meet. So at this point, I had not eaten anything all day. I think I just had a coffee with some cream because I think I was really, first of all, we were so busy, but I think I was just really concerned with weighing too high. I think just with it being my first meet. I had heard stories of people's scales at home being like 1 or 2 pounds off, and then they go weigh at their meet and it's like a huge difference. So I was worried about that. I was worried about like if I ate anything, I would hold all of it, and anything I would eat, it probably would have been fast food because I was just trying to get from the tire place an hour and a half away to King, North Carolina. So I didn't want to worry about stopping. I wanted to make sure I was there on time because, as y'all know, USPA 24-hour weigh-ins. They'll usually have a session in the morning and a session in the evening, and I really wanted to try to get there by 6. So we're driving, drive went fine. I think I had some like peanut butter filled pretzels in the back, so I snacked on those the whole way. So I do not recommend not getting a lot of food the day before. If you gotta weigh in, and do whatever, at least make sure that you can refuel a lot between your weigh-in and the meet. So we get to weigh-ins, that goes smoothly. I have my membership card pulled up from the website. My ID, I put in my attempts, which felt really cool. Weighed in, I was like 3 pounds under, of course. So we leave. We actually had a friend who was doing the same meet, so we all got an Airbnb together. So I think we met up at Target, grabbed some essentials. That is one thing I recommend for if you are traveling any kind of distance to your meet. I kind of recommend just buying everything once you get there. I would not worry about having to pack it and travel with it, and if it's something that needs to stay cold, trying to keep it cold, I just kind of recommend just buying it once you get to your destination. We then went to get Chinese, also a very good move considering just how little I had eaten that day. It was like the perfect combination of like salt with carbs with protein and some fats. People are like, oh, I don't know about Chinese, that might mess my stomach up. Like, American Chinese is literally chicken nuggets in sauce. Like, how sensitive is your stomach that might bother it? But maybe those are the Kung Pao chicken people, I don't know. I got that. I'd gotten a pint of ice cream from Target. I ate about half of it, which looking back, I think that was a good move too, just because of all the fats that could kind of just digest in the night. I'm not lactose intolerant, so it wasn't really a factor. And then aside from that, things I would have changed not on meet day, I think I would have just tried to go to bed sooner. I would have to be up at 7 for the lifters meeting in the beginning, and then I think I fell asleep around like midnight. It was just not a great combination. But honestly, I think I would have just skipped the lifters meeting. At the time, I thought you like had to go to the lifters meeting or else you weren't allowed to compete. Fun fact, it is not the case. You don't have to go. But then again, at the same time, I kind of wished I had went there for the whole thing because we ended up being late. But I kind of wish I had attended the whole thing because there are a couple things I did wrong that the refs had to yell at me for, but outside of that. So but the day of went pretty smoothly. We were late getting in just because we had to pack up everything and just make sure the Airbnb was in like good shape before we left because we wouldn't be coming back after the meet. This is where I really recommend bringing someone along who, worst case scenario, just cares about you and wants you to do well. They don't have to know a lot about powerlifting or know the ins and outs of meet day, but just someone who, you know, again, wants to see you succeed, like run and grab food for you, or get you water, or hold your headphones for you between attempts, or baby powder your legs, just like little stuff like that you don't need to be super knowledgeable in powerlifting to like do. Because I was really concerned with getting enough food in with enough time to actually like digest some of it on the way to the meet. Robbie actually offered to drive my car for me, which was awesome. I was hoping he would, and he did. He had never driven my car before. It allowed me to just eat while we were on our way. It was about a half hour from the Airbnb, so that was super nice. I hope our friend Roman is watching so he can just be like, why does she remember just like all these specific things from that day? Looking back at my food choice for first thing in the morning, I wouldn't really recommend it. I had one of those instant oatmeal cups and a banana and a buttload of honey. I just kind of wouldn't recommend that. The honey I would recommend, but I wouldn't really recommend oatmeal and a banana just because they are very fibrous, especially a banana like fresh from the store is going to have the least amount of simple sugars in it. So for first thing meet day, first of all, I recommend do try to eat late at night if you don't have a 2-hour weigh-in the morning, but also do try to eat something low fat, high carb, moderate protein. So I would recommend more of maybe a protein bar that's low in fat or a protein shake along with some form of simple sugars. Those Kodiak cake cups are awesome, especially if you have access to a microwave. You should be scoping out the gym you're going to be competing in the day before, no matter what, even if you just show up the day before. But you should be scoping it out. Try to see if it has a microwave, because maybe like where you're staying doesn't have one. Try to stay somewhere that does as well. Any competition, anything, try to stay somewhere that has a microwave, or that they can like bring you one from the front. It'll make just life a whole lot simpler. But do try to see if the gym you're at does have a microwave, because usually they'll have one for their employees. See, there's a tip that won't be in just any old meet day informational video. But yeah, quick carbs, low fiber, low fat, moderate protein, first thing in the morning. So got there. I'm not only a female, I'm a middleweight female, I think. So I lifted first thing in the morning. So I warmed up like normal. I was pretty much as fueled and caffeinated as I could possibly be, since I don't have a big appetite in the morning. So first attempt went fine. Second attempt, it was I think around 3:04, and I missed it because I jumped the rack command, which one thing, if there's any takeaway you get from this video, it would be to visualize your failures and become very comfortable with them. Now, this won't work for everybody. Some people, it might psych them out, but again, not only visualizing yourself failing, but becoming very comfortable with the concept of failing. When I was practicing commands about 4 weeks out, I know myself very well, and I knew, like, I was like, I'm going to miss commands at least once or twice. Like, I'm going to miss an attempt. Like, I just know. And sure enough, I missed one, but that was all I needed. Once I missed it, I was like, okay, that's not going to happen again. So I missed my second squat. Got my third. It was a little bit of a grind, but we got it. Hopefully I'll be able to have the footage up on here. It's going to be extra potato. More potato than the footage from my last YouTube video. So like mashed potato. But you'll get the gist. Then after squats, you're just chilling, because you have to wait through all the flights. You have to wait for them to set up the bench. So you have a hot minute usually, unless the meet's just going pretty quick. So at this point, I kind of came down, let the nerves kind of melt off a little bit, and that's when I like really ate, because you have the time to let the food digest. If you are going to have some fats on meat day, I think this would be when you would, because you'll actually have some time for it all to digest. But again, you'll want a pretty good amount of carbs, fats, and then you want a pretty good amount of protein at this time. I don't recommend caffeinating between squat and bench, just because like I hate talking like bench like isn't hype or it's not super strenuous, because it can be, but it's just, to me, it's just not as demanding as the other movements. But you know you better than I do, so if you're hearing that and you're like, then don't take the advice. It's fine. So bench, I was actually kind of nervous, so I actually took my opener in warm-ups. Again, not really something I would recommend, but it just helped me like feel better. So hit it easy, set my next attempt pretty high, and then my attempt after that, I want to say from my first attempt to my third attempt, it was about a difference of about 30 pounds. I think I let Robbie pick my third attempt for bench, because I had a chance to go for the state record. I beat the state record on my first attempt of squat, and then I had the chance to beat the state record on my third attempt by about, I want to say like 5-ish pounds-ish. But I just really wasn't sure. I hadn't lifted that weight in a while. I had never paused it. But Robbie believed in me, and we got it up. For women, for the bench, I recommend kind of starting a little bit high, because I do not like to take big jumps on bench at all. I mean, that tip's not exclusive to women, but I just know for women, like 5 pounds can make a huge difference. So I don't like making very big jumps on bench. So if you find that you know, you prefer to take smaller jumps on bench, I would just start kind of high, but something very like easy, like doable. Like I would probably start with, at a meet, like probably like 160. I would prefer to start with 155, but 160, if my goal is to get to 190, I'll be able to get there pretty comfortably. But again, that'll kind of depend on the person. And then you recaffeinate, recarb up for deadlift. That is when the stakes are high. They won't be super high at your first meet, probably, unless you're just like super strong going into it, or you're like a teen or junior prodigy, then maybe, but they won't be super high. But still, like, deadlift is very strenuous, so that's when I like to kind of recaffeinate, get hype. It's the end of the day, so maybe you kind of feel inclined to just kind of get tired and you're ready to be done. So just like some pre-workout, some ammonia, get you back hype again. That reminds me, I don't use ammonia in training ever, but I like to use ammonia on meet day just because, for the simple reason, it kind of replaces having music like blaring in my ears. It kind of replaces the stimulus I would get from that. So deadlifts, I think these are my last few little like meet day tips for you, and then we'll wrap up this video. But deadlifts, I opened, I want to say with 314, which is funny because that was my last attempt on squat, but I opened with 314 and then I hit 325, and then it moved like super fast, and Robbie kind of like really pushed me to try for the deadlift state record, which was I think around 345. But in training, okay, first of all, huge mental block with deadlifts for me. So I had that, but also I think deadlifts, the most I had done in training was like 320 for like 2 or 3. I don't think I touched much more than like 320. So you'll actually see I gave it like a little pump fake, and then I pulled it. And again, like being very familiar with the rules of the federation, I set it down, and in my mind I was like, this will go one of two ways. The refs will either count that first pump as an attempt and it was a no lift, or maybe the weight didn't shift as much on one side, or maybe someone will be nice and like not count it. But the front judge gave it to me. I'm pretty positive it never left the ground, but again, in my mind I was like, all right, there's a good chance I didn't make that. And I turned around and it was 2 reds, and I was like, ah. But it is a bummer to end on 3 reds. If that's one thing I could just recommend to any new lifter, 1, don't bomb out, please. But 2, try to end on 3 whites. Just, you'll have, or 2 whites, you'll just have like such a better memory of like your first meet. I obviously have great memories of my first meet, but you also might not be as strong as I was going into your first meet. So yeah, that's kind of the analysis summary of my first meet, what I would do differently. Don't be like me and get your car fixed the day before you, or 2 days before you have to compete, and try to eat enough. Try to give yourself enough time and enough leeway to be able to eat enough the day before, and try not to go on vacation 3 weeks out. And yeah, if you stuck around, again, thank you so much. Hit that like, would you? Maybe. And subscribe, because I'm trying to upload every week. So the more subscribers, the more I'll be motivated to do so. I'm thinking the next one will either be informative and we'll talk about different deadlift starting positions, pros and cons, and what might work best for you. Actually, yeah, that's probably what the next one will be. If I'm able to film all the B-roll I need to by then. Say bye to the people, Mip. Say bye, Mip. Say bye, Mip. Duncan, sponsor me. And then that's the intro.